My fingers were so cold I couldn't feel the paper. The vault door had just closed behind me, one of those hydraulic things that seals with a sound like a coffin, and this woman on the speakerphone kept calling him Captain Novak. But my father hadn't been a captain in 20 years. He'd been a ghost who smelled like diesel and ate the same cabbage soup every Sunday, and died alone in that apartment overlooking the Motwawa River with $17 in his wallet. I'm Elaine, and I hadn't slept in 31 hours. The flight from Gdansk to Singapore is 14 hours if you go through Frankfurt. Business class. My father never flew business. He wore the same wool coat for 18 winters. He reused tea bags. When my brother Kasper's second startup collapsed and he begged for $5,000 to keep his apartment, our father said no. Just no. Not I don't have it. Not you need to learn. Just no. Kasper didn't come to the funeral. He came to the apartment 3 days later, while I was packing father's things. He didn't knock, just stood in the doorway with his hands shaking, demanding to know where the documents were. Bank statements, property deeds, anything. His voice got louder with every drawer I opened. He hoarded pennies while we suffered. While I suffered. And for what? For this? He kicked the stack of old maritime journals by the door. For nothing. But that was before the woman. She appeared at the wake, if you could call it that. 12 people in a community center that smelled like floor wax and instant coffee. She wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than father's entire wardrobe. She didn't introduce herself. She just walked up to me, handed me an envelope that smelled like salt and diesel somehow, and said, "Your father told me you'd be ready to continue his last watch." Then she left. Inside was a first-class ticket to Singapore, departure in 18 hours, and a business card. With one word, Margot. I should have thrown it away, but I got on that plane. The humidity in Singapore hits you like a wet towel. The bank was downtown, one of those buildings with no signs, just an address. A woman in her 50s met me in the lobby. "Elaine Novak?" "Yes. I'm Margot Chen. I met your father once. 18 years ago. He was one of our most precise clients." She led me to a room with no windows, just white walls and a conference table and a leather folder that looked older than me. When she opened it, the paper inside was still warm from the printer. The ink smelled chemical, real. Transaction records dating back to 1987. Deposits, always deposits, never withdrawals. Small amounts at first and a few $100s, then larger, transfers, dividends, compound interest doing its slow, patient work. And at the bottom of the last page, a number with 7 zeros, $15 million. I couldn't breathe. Margot was still talking. Something about investment protocols and fiduciary responsibilities and my father's instructions, but I wasn't listening. I was staring at that number, trying to make it make sense. My father, who yelled at me for leaving lights on, who made me work at the marina every summer starting at age 12, hauling nets in the cold, who watched Kasper spiral into debt and didn't blink. "There's more," Margot said. She handed me a USB drive. Old, scratched. Someone had written Elaine on it in black marker, the way father wrote everything. Block letters, permanent ink. I opened it on the laptop she provided. One file, a spreadsheet, 247 names. Each name, a sailor, a date, an accident type, a prosthetic category, a rehabilitation center, a status. Funded, completed, ongoing. No personal messages, no explanations, just a note at the top. Continue protocol. Trust your judgment. I scrolled down. My hand was shaking now. Mouse. Clicking past names I didn't know, accidents I couldn't imagine, and then I saw it. Line 43. Bartosz Kowalczyk, Gdańsk. Crane accident, 2003. I knew that name. My father had mentioned him once, just once. We were on the boat, father's old fishing vessel, the one he kept moored at the marina even though he never took it out anymore. I was maybe 19. Kasper was already gone by then, living in Warsaw. chasing some tech thing. And Father was checking the lines, not looking at me, and he said, "You remember Bartosz from the docks? He found work in an office now. Good man. Harder to break than he looked." I had to leave the room. Margot found me in the hallway, staring at the abstract art on the wall, some kind of ocean scene that looked nothing like the Baltic. She didn't ask if I was okay. She just said, "Your father never missed a payment. Not in 34 years?" I went back to the hotel, stared at the city lights until they blurred, and then I did the stupidest thing I've done in my entire life. I called Kasper. He answered on the second ring. "Where have you been?" "I've been calling." "I'm in Singapore." Silence. "Why?" I tried to explain. The fund, the sailors, the spreadsheet. I was trying to be fair, trying to be transparent, because that's what Father taught me. You tell the truth even when it costs you. "How much?" Kasper's voice was flat. 15 million. But it's not $15 million. Kasper, listen. And you believe that? You believe some fairy tale about him playing guardian angel to strangers while his own son... His voice cracked. Not anger yet. Something worse, something broken. He wouldn't give me $5,000. I was losing my apartment, and he had 15 million. It's not like that. What's it like then, Elaine? Explain it to me. Make it make sense. I couldn't. He hung up. I spent the next 2 days tracking down names from the list. Found a Slovenian deckhand who lost his arm in 2006. Now he runs a maritime safety nonprofit in Ljubljana. Found a Filipino engineer, accident injury, who designed a new type of rescue harness after his rehabilitation. Found thank you letters in the USB drive subfolder, addressed to anonymous benefactor, scanned and saved like receipts. My father didn't save these men, he gave them second acts, the kind he never gave himself, or Kasper. And then I found the other file, buried in the USB, a Word document, for _K.doc, last modified 3 years ago, never sent. I opened it. Kasper, I know you think I'm punishing you. Maybe I am, but not for the reasons you believe. Money won't fix what's broken in you. I know because I've seen what it does to men who never learn to stand in the cold. I saw good men lost at sea in my career. Strong men. Half of them went under because they panicked. They fought the water instead of working with it. You keep fighting. You keep thinking the next loan, the next investment, the next big thing will save you. It won't. You have to learn to float first. I wish I knew how to teach you that. But I don't. Maybe Elaine can. Father? I read it 4 times. Then Kasper's lawyer called. He'd filed an injunction. Singapore Bank froze the account pending Polish probate court review. He wanted his half in cash. He wanted it now. And if I didn't cooperate, he'd tie this up for years. That's when Margot called again. "There's something else," she said. "A second account." My heart stopped. Smaller. $200,000. In your brother's name. Opened in 2008. I couldn't speak. Your father had specific instructions. The funds were to be released when Kasper asked for help. Not money. Help. If he never asked... She paused. Well, he never asked. Father had been waiting 15 years for Kasper to break differently, to need something other than cash. The mediation happened 6 weeks later in Gdańsk. Not a courtroom, just a conference room in some lawyer's office near the old town. Gray light through dirty windows. Coffee nobody drank going cold on the table. Kasper arrived with his attorney. I came alone. The lawyer started talking about estate law, probate procedures, equitable distribution. I let him talk for maybe 2 minutes. Then I said, "I want to read you something." I read Father's letter out loud, every word. Kasper's face didn't change. When I finished, he said, "So I wasn't worth fixing, just worth watching fail." His voice was completely flat, worse than anger. I slid the second account documents across the table. "He left you this 15 years ago. You just never triggered the condition," Kasper read. The room was so quiet I could hear the heating system tick. What was the condition? The lawyer asked. That he asked for help, I said. Not money. Help. Kasper stood. The chair scraped against the floor like a scream. He looked at me like I was a stranger. You think this makes him a saint? He played God with both of us. He left the documents on the table, and he walked out. 6 weeks after that, the court released the main fund to me as executor. Kasper didn't contest, didn't fight, didn't call. I transferred the $200,000 to his account anyway. He never acknowledged it. I still work as a maritime insurance adjuster. Same job, same apartment. But every Sunday, I review applications. Last month, I approved funding for a Filipino engineer who lost both hands in an accident. She wants to be a maritime safety inspector. I visited Father's boat last week. First time since the funeral. Sat in the captain's chair. The leather is cracked now. It smells like rust and salt and old diesel. I found his logbook in the drawer. Last entry, dated 2 days before he died. E.L. has the eyes. K has the heart. Only one can carry weight. He chose me because I could bear it. Not because I deserved it, because Kasper couldn't. The fund has helped 31 sailors since I took over. 31 men and women who'll walk again, work again, stand in the cold without breaking. My father didn't leave me money. He left me the weight. And some days, I hate him for knowing I could carry it.